everyone, and welcome to my presentation. In this presentation, we will be going over some tips for preparing a presentation and for helping to make sure you feel comfortable giving that presentation. As I mentioned, we will be going over some tips for making presentations easier, starting with knowing your audience. Once we cover that, we will then move on to knowing your presentation, and then finishing up with keeping things simple. Knowing your target audience and their needs is key to getting their attention, which is why we want to focus on them as much as we can. Some things you should know about your audience include how many people you'll be presenting to. Will you be in an auditorium full of people, or you'll be giving a lecture, or will it be a little bit more intimate, maybe the size of an office space, where you can really get to know the people you're presenting to. It's also important to know the key members of your audience. So sometimes there will be specific people that you want feedback from, or you want to make sure is able to follow along with the points that you're making. Another thing you want to know about your audience is their learning styles. So there are a couple different ways that people learn, and being able to craft your presentation around the learning styles of those individuals can significantly help your point get across to them and keep them up to date with what you are saying. And finally, knowing your audience will make it easier to speak to them. So being able to be a bit more familiar with them can sort of put you at ease instead of thinking that you're presenting to a room of total strangers. Moving on to knowing your presentation, once you understand what kind of audience you'll be presenting to, you'll definitely want to make sure that you also understand the presentation itself. Now, preparing for your presentation can be seen as a bit of a no-brainer, because of course you're making it, you know what's in there. But it's still very important to go over key concepts that you want to touch on during the presentation and consider any roadblocks that might stand in your way. Doing this can help your presentation go much more smoothly. And if you notice that your audience is having a bit of a tough time, having trouble following you, you will know your presentation well enough that you can either backtrack or simplify the next following steps to make sure that you have everyone on the same page.
As Cyrus stated, knowing your presentation is very important. That way, like you said, if you have to backtrack and explain it more in depth to your audience, you're able to do that with no problem. That's one of the benefits of really, looking over and understanding your information. That way you can break it down in all different types of ways for everybody in your audience to understand. Keeping it simple is also another very important presentation tip. It is very, very important to keep it simple because, sometimes, overcomplicating things can confuse you and confuse your audience. It also, helps you because you have less to worry about and it's easier for the audience to follow rather than, you complicate everything and everybody's confused and you just wasted a bunch of time because now you have to reiterate everything you just said, but say it in a more basic way for everybody to understand. Leveraging body language is also very important. As you can see in the picture, this man is very attentive, has his hands up, good posture, smiling, being very interactive. These are all very important presentation tips. Having good posture, having good facial expressions, not having your arms and hands folded up, looking like you don't want to be there. You have to look the part as well. Your movements of your hands and arms as well is very important. In my summary / conclusion, Cyrus and I went over all the tips: knowing your audience, knowing your presentation, keeping it simple, leveraging body language. These are all important presentation tips that's going to help you in the future. whether it comes to, presenting in front of presenting for your boss, in school, or just at some type of seminar. Thank you for your time.